The only one we hear. Voice of that. Okay, we're up to the Mishnah on Ayin Ches Amid Beis at the bottom. The Mishnah Ayin Ches Amid Beis at the bottom. So Mishnasa Rishus L'Shlucha L'Kadosh Espito. The person we know that Espiti Nasati Lishazeh, as long as the girl is a katana or a naira, a man can go ahead and be Mekadosh. So he goes ahead and he makes a shliach to go ahead and accept Kidushin for his daughter. And I guess something good comes his way. And he goes ahead and he's Mekadosh. Now, Kadmu Kedushasav, right? Kedushin. If his Kedushin of the father came before the shliach, right, then it's good Kedushin. Kadmu Kedushav Kedushin. And if the shliach goes first, then it's Kedushin's Kedushin. Now, what would appear to be obvious, we're going to see it's not so obvious. What appears to be obvious is not so obvious. So, if he accepts the Kedushin, so he's mvatal the Kedushin, the shliach. I made you a shliach to accept Kedushin. I'm accepting Kedushin. So obviously I'm being mvatal you as a shliach. The same case by the woman. Now, the third possibility, if you don't know who came first, Shneim Nostim get, they both have to give a get. And really, only one has to give a get. If the other one wants to marry, he could. But again, if she wants to marry something, Rashi says, in Boli Nasi Acher, Rashi's telling you, if she was going to marry one of the two, you don't need both to give a get. One would give a get, and the other one would give Kedushin, right? Again, of course, because he may be the person that you want to be Kedushin to. But Rashi's telling us, when would Shneim have to give a get? If she wants to marry a third party, then you have to take into account that which one came first and is possibly the husband. Now, the Matzu Echad nice and get the Echad Kainis. V'chein ha'isha shenasna rishus l'shlucha l'kadsha, an isha that goes ahead and gives permission for a shliach. It's a funny lashon. It doesn't that makes a shliach. Gives rishus to a shliach the mekabel kedushin. V'holcha v'kitches atzmo, and she herself goes and accepts kedushin. Im shalah kadmu, if hers comes before the shliach kiddusheha kedushin. Im shal shlucha kadmu, then kedushav kedushin. The shliach's kedushin is good kedushin. If you don't know which one came first, then they both would give a get. Then matzu echad nice and laget ve'echad kindness. If you want, one can give a get, one can. Now the question is, if you look, they both seem to be the obvious, and why tell me the cases in the same scenario, one by the father and one by her? So it's tzricha. You got to tell me both. The iash me'inon gabe di day. Let's say you would tell me the father. Mishum de gavra kimle biyuchsin. Again, this is in Masechta in the Perek Asari Yuchsin. So what's our concern over here? The concern is who you be Mekadosh to. What's his yichus? A father understands yichus. He can go ahead and check out the yichus brief, but the girl can't. So I would say the following: the father who understands kedushin kimle biyuchsin, aval isisa, but a woman deloy kimle biyuchsin who's not such an expert, ema loy nahavi kidusel kedushin. I might think that what her kedushin's not. In other words, she made a shliach in the first place. The assumption is that maybe the shliach knows more about checking into yichus than she does. So she's accepting this kedushin kaviyachol guy on a tanai. In other words, how is it possible that she accepts kedushin and she's not mekudeshes, even if the shliach doesn't beat her to the punch, is because she's accepting, listen, I'm not sure, I don't know, but listen, the guy looks like a nice guy, he came along, so I'm mekadosh to him. However, if my shliach gets a better deal, a more meyuchasnika guy, I want that kedushin. I might think you say that, but you don't. I might think you say that, but you don't. So if you would have told me the chiddush by him, that's what I would have said. I would have said the father's kedushin's kedushin because he's an expert in yichus, but the girl who's not, I would said she would go ahead and acquiesce to her shliach, saying he knows better. Kamash not. Now, what happens if you tell me by her? If you tell me the chiddush by her, that what the her kedushin is mishum the isasa daiko mitzvah. A woman, if not a yichus, but a woman is daiko mitzvah. She aval ihu ema loy ichbaslei. So Rashi says, says Rashi, him I would say what? He doesn't care. the one before Leich Batlei, the Bitoi, in Tinase Lemiyuchis called the who? He wants his daughter to get married. So therefore, he's not really looking into it that much. And he's not mevatel the shliach. In other words, I'm accepting Kidushin, but if my shliach beats me to the punch, I'm okay also. If he doesn't beat me to the punch. But he's not mevatel the shliach vafilu mekadsha ligarua. And even the shliach mekadosh ligarua for had the kodim like kitcha. And he beat it to the punch. Saba dilma like mishkach. Maybe he thinks I'll never find any. Aval mishkach like batlei. No, it's why am I accepting Kedushin? Because I'm a little worried. But so I would think he's not mevatel l'shliach k'mashmalon, that even in that scenario, he cares about his, he doesn't care about the shliach, and he's mevatel the shliach. So you make it tzrichasa that you might think that the father, he's not being mevatel the shliach, and the shliach you yichayish v'es Kedushin k'mashmalon, that not. Yeah, before he does the shlichus.
Like what's one of the shlichus that you don't know if he's
before no, he's on the shlichus. You know for sure the time spent. He looked at his watch. Okay, says the Gemara Vaita. Itmar. Kitsha. Okay, now this is a really guys, very interesting Gemara. Digresses to a very, very exciting Gemara that we've touched upon. Look at the concept of chazaka. The concept of chazaka. We have the concept of chazaka, the hashta, the chazaka meikara. Chazaka is hashta means you go after the here and now. Whatever you are now, right? Whatever you are now, that's the chazaka meikara is whatever was before. Chazaka meikara was whatever it was before. We know that there are different ways to mevar a suffix. If you have a suffix, so different tools. There's roiv, we can go after roiv. Adam, there's ways to go ahead and clarify a suffix. One of the ways that we can't clarify, we go after chazaka. And there are different chazakas. Cheskas marikama, whoever's holding on to it, right? The last person who had it was a mikvah. I left off the mikvah. It was tar. It was 40 saw. It's missing now. A barrel of wine that I left off. That I thought it was wine, and I was taking off truma. Turned out to be chametz. With chazaka, we're going to touch upon what happens a nido at which point in time, but we're not going to touch upon that. But different, it's certain chazakas, and it's going to touch upon our mishnah. So we're going to go have this machlokes. You say this stick a shas machlokes in Rav and Shmuel, and of course, when you have this digression, inevitably you bring in the mishnah along the way, and that's why it creeps into this sugya. Says the Gemara, Itmar. Kitsha avia b'derech. Now, the father can mekadesh his daughter when she's a katana or a naira, but once she becomes a bogeres, you can't. Now let's discuss bogeres, guys. What bogeres is like we have ages that are mistama. You've been to bar mitzvahs. You've been to bar mitzvah where the kid goes up there, he can't reach the bima. His voice is like clearly a child's voice. He can't be might see you in Parsha Zacha. You have a kid who goes up there, he's got the sideburns. You know what I mean? Full why? Because again, you had kids who you know the difference. So we give an age of 13 in a day. 13 in a day, mistama, he has shtei staras. 12 in a day, mistama, she has shtei staras. What's the age of a bogeres? Mistama, 12 and 6 months. If she shows characteristics of a woman before then, she'd be a bogeres before then. Okay? So again, but that's the age. Once you hit that age, you're out of your father's rishus. Father cannot be mekadesh. Good. With that in mind. So this person, the father's mekadesh b'derech, and she is mekadesh herself be'er. The derech be'er lav dafka. He was mekadesh first. The father's kedushin was before the girl's kedushin. The father's acceptance of kedushin was before, and here's the shaila: was she a bogeres at the time of his acceptance or not? Farihi bogeres. Now she's a bogeres right now. What's the question? Was she a bogeres at the time of the father's kedushin, and it's not a kedushin? Or she wasn't a bogeres, and she was mekadeshes to the fathers, and Memela, she wasn't mekadeshes to the one she accepted, because she was an Ashes Ish already. Rav Amar, Arihi bogeres lefanenu. Rav says you go after what? The chazaka, the hashta. You go after what she is now. She's a so we'll say she's a bogeres now, and she was a bogeres when she accepted the kedushin. Now the Gemara is going to ask, what age was she? Right? Obviously, that should come to play. But right now, with the information we have, If she's the Baigeris now, we'll say she was the Baigeris when she accepted the Kidushin. Ushmul Amar, no, Chashina Likidushay Shneim. You have to be chayish for both. In other words, I have to be chayish that she was not a Baigeris at the time. She's a Baigeris now. I have to be chayish for both. In other words, according to Shmuel, I have to take into account the chazaka, the meikara, which is what we left off at. When the father wasn't accepting Kedushin if he knew she was a Baigeres, right? So obviously the father accepting the Kedushin is the chazaka what she was, and the father accepted the Kedushin. So says Rav, we go after the chazaka, the hashta. Says Shmuel, we take into account the chazaka, the meikara. How are we doing? Good. Now, Amos, exactly when did this occur?
You say we take into account that it supersedes the chazaka that we see.
We don't mesupik shneim. We don't say she's kadeshes to the fathers. We say mesupik. We have to take into account. She's a suffix. If it would supersede, then we say she's a vaday, wasn't a Baigeres, and we won't be chayish for a kedushin. It doesn't say that, Avi. It says the shneim. So now, Amos, shisha, guys. If it's between 6, who be right or wrong? Rav or Shmuel? Rav. Her name of Rav, no, it'd be wrong. Hari Rav, Hari Baigeres Vanenu? Ashnu de Bagra? Guys, if it's within 6 months, it's 12 and 3 months, you have a Baigeres now, you're going to say she was a Baigeres before? Why? Why would you say that? Again, the only way she'd be Baigeres now is she shows Simanim, but Pashtus, we left her off in what state? Of a Naira. Ella must be Lakashisha. So now, if it's speaking after 6 months, and you're saying it's Baigeres Lefanenu, but her name is Shmuel Chashin and Lekidusha Shnayim, right? Shmuel there say you have to be chayish for both. There's no difference between Nairis and Bagris. So if it's after 6 months, Shmuel would be Maida, she's a Baigeres. I mean, Madam Shach, this Machlekes Rav and Shmuel, we're having a tough time figuring out how to establish it. If it's speaking between 6 months, 12 and a day and 6 months, why would Rav say she's a Baigeres? And if it's speaking, when you hit the 6 month mark, why would Shmuel say she's not a Baigeres? Says the Gemara, Leitzricha, the Kaddish behayuma, the Mashlam Shisha. What happened? We Kaddish on that day. The day that she became the day that she became a Baigeres, that's the day that we enshad. So the father in the morning accepted the Kedushin. Let's say this 6 months comes up on April 30th. So April 30th in the morning, the father accepts Kedushin. April 30th in the evening, the girl accepts Kedushin. That's the case. The day that's Mashlim Sheish, that's where it is. Rav Amar, Harihi Baigeres Lefanenu. Right? Midahashta Baigeres in the evening of April 30th when she's a Baigeres. Bitsafranami Baigeres. In the morning she also was. So the Chazaka the Hashta will go ahead and establish that she became a Baigeres, what? On that full day. So she was a Baigeres in the morning. And therefore, we're not chayish for the father's Kedushin. She's married to the second guy. Ushmul Amar, no. Hashtahu the Isi Simanim. Right? Shmuel says now she's being Simanim. So I have to take into account, perhaps, when in the morning, when the father accepts the Kedushin, she was a Naira. So it's speaking in that case. Good, guys. Let's get it straight. We're going to ask in Shmuel in a second. Okay. Says Rav. Here's the mitzvah to the case. You have a father accepts Kedushin on April 30th in the morning. The girl accepts Kedushin from another man April 30th in the evening. Now the question is, was the girl a Baigeres and could accept her on Kedushin in the morning and the father's out of the ballpark and only the girl counts? Or no, the father was, as Vadai, we're not going to say the father will take into account where she is now, but we won't only take into account the Hashta, we will go Meikar also. Shmuel says you have to take into account maybe in the morning she was still a Naira, and therefore we have to be chayish for the father's Kedushin, so she needs to get from both. Good? She Mekadesh to both. That's the case. Now, we're going to ask on Shmuel, okay? We're going to ask on Shmuel from the following case. Shmuel, my shnomi mikvah. Ditnan, a Mishnah. We had this Mishnah, if it sounds familiar, we had a Masech, the Gittin, that Lamed Aleph. Mikvah shenimnad, a mikvah that you went ahead and measured, the nimsa chaser. Now, a mikvah, it was measured, it had 40 sa, meaning it was capable of being mitar, anything that was in the mikvah. Rashi says kalim, okay? So you had kalim that you use this mikvah, you mitar Tamei dika kalim. It's not not like our kalim mikvah, right? That were made by goyim. This is for tumah. This is like I'm saying. So you put in the mikvah, you mikvah 40 saw, you put it in, and you checked it a month later. A month later, you check the mikvah, and what you are missing. Kol tahayir shenasu al gabav l'mafreya. That whole month, the last time you checked it, it was good, and now you checked it, it's no good. A month later, bein b'shus hayachid, whether the mikvah is in b'shus hayachid, and we'll say safik tum b'shus hayachid sveikai tamei from learning from the Saita. Bein b'shus harabim. Well, it's just harabim. We say safik tum b'shus harabim sveikai tamei timeyos. We'll say they're tamei. You know what tamei means? We're saying vadai, since now it's gone, we'll say it's gone a month ago, as opposed to Shmuel, who would say, well, why don't we say that water earlier, water was it was okay? Just like you're saying now, but you have to be chayish for naira for the father. Why don't we chayish that the mikvah was good until today? Why don't we say for 29 days it's good? And maybe I'm just giving a number arbitrarily, and maybe just today will be chayish. That's the kasha. Says more shiny hasam. It's tikva by mikvah. The ikalamema hemet tamei al ches kasai. Now, good. You want to say the mikvah is now tamei, but I have the keli that was tamei. I have the kli that was tamei, right? Right. So hemet tamei al ches kasai. The ema loy tavel. I'll say what's the status of the kli? Tamei.
It came in tamei.
And so it never left. And I'll say it wasn't tamei. So that's different. Masha'en came by the Isha, she didn't have what? We don't say she was in a chazak of a naira. Why? Because it's speaking that it was that day. It's very important. You might say the same thing. The girl had a chazak of, she entered that day, it was a naira. But what we said, it's speaking when they accept Kidushin? On the day that she could possibly be by Geras. In other words, if this was 12 and Shiloh was whether then you'd be miming her in the chazak of Penuya. But over here not. And so let's say the mikvah was, when the last time you checked it, guys, what? The mikvah was tahar. So why do you go after the chazak of the kli and say it's tamei? Go after the chazak of the mikvah. The last time you checked, the mikvah was good. So let's go after and say that why it wasn't. So another chazak meikara. So now you're going after chazak of the kli meikara, saying it's tamei. Why don't you have to go the chazak of the mikvah and say it's tahar? The mikvah was good. Says the Gemara, Hari chas l'fanecha. But 1 second, what do you have in front of you? You have a chazaka of the mikvah that's missing. So hachanami hari bageris l'fanecha. You have a bageris that's in front of you. So why do you say that you have to be chayish for a kedushin, for the father's kedushin? Says the Gemara, will say hashtu de bagra. So it says no more hasanami hashtu the chasra. So I don't see the difference. No, it's going back and forth. I don't see the difference by mikvah. We're going to say that you Shmuel will agree that all the tyrus were tamei, yes, and over here that you're going to say by the girl will take into account the father was wa mekadeshah. And for the Gemara, hasam tarti. Over there by the mikvah, you got two things. You have one. You have the fact that the keli was tamei as chazaka, and two, you have its chasal lefanecha. Right? You have tarti l'reyasa. By the mikvah, there's two things going against you to be mitahar. One, the kli was tamei. Two, right now in front of you is a mikvah that's chasar. So it's going to be difficult to say it's where's the tyra part over here? Hacha mashenke by the girl chadul l'reyasa. All you have is baigeres lefanenu, but you don't have what a chazaka of that she was a baigeres. You have chazaka fanenu, but you don't have the mikvah. So therefore, that's the difference. Good. So, question: Shmuel, guys, outside. Let's chaz riba. Says Shmuel, in a case where a father accepts Kidushin on April 30th, which is the 6-month mark, she's now 12 and 6 months, and he woke up in the morning, and the day before she was what? She was a naira. The day before she was a naira, and now she is this day. At night, we find that she's a begeris, and she had accepted Kidushin. Says Rav, you go after her. She's mikdeshes to the second guy. Says Shmuel, you mikdeshes to both of them. You don't know. You're mesupik. Why? I'll take into account the what it was before. Fred Gemara, why does Shmuel agree by mikvah that it's tamei? Why won't you go ahead and say that the mikvah was the chazak of the mikvah? Because mikvah, you have two things working against it. One, the kli that you put in there was becheskes tamei, and two, the mik. Now you look at the mikveh, there's nothing there. Over here, there's only reyesa. You look at her now; she's a begeres. You don't. There's no chazaka, but she was before. Okay, we'll ask on Shmuel again. Ushmuel, my shna mechavius, the Tanya. Okay, guys, here's the background. A person is living in Eretz Yisrael. It could be in Chutz La'aretz also, but he's in Eretz Yisrael. And you know what? He happens to like wine, and he wants to go ahead and separate truma. So can you imagine separating truma from multiple places, having to gather it together? I got a great idea. I got this barrel of wine in my house, this really big jug of barrel. And any wine that over the year that I'm going to go ahead and take off truma, I'll say it should be taken off in that barrel. So all the wine will be centered around that barrel. I'll have no problem, and I'll be able to drink wine. And then when the day comes, I'll go ahead, take that barrel, and I'll give it whatever's there. I'll divvy it up and give it to the kohen. Okay? He goes ahead. He checks the barrel. The barrel's full of wine. Good. He goes ahead now, and he separates. A month goes by, and sure enough, he checks, and guess what? It's vinegar. Now you can't go ahead and take off from vinegar on wine on vinegar, because it's either hold this two separate minim, or it's meyachiv ala patur. Okay, so you have two problems. Meitoiv ala ra, not meyachiv patur. Toiv ala ra, toiv ala ra. So, question: at which point in time do we say it spoiled that we have to be chayish? Okay, what's the difference? Okay, ma'ishna mechavius the Tanya. He's checking his barrel to ensure it's still wine. Lahafish aleh truma, to go ahead and be able to go ahead and separate truma. And go on. V'achakach nimsis chaymitz, and now he finds it's chaymitz. Kol gimel yomim vadai. Okay, there's two pshat, and we're going to go with one. Kol gimel. He checked a month ago, so for the first 3 days of that month, we'll say vadai that it was wine, and any truma that he separated on those 3 days, the first 3 days would be what? Would be okay. Mikan ve'elech to 27 days, let's say in that month, 27 days now is a suffix. The 27 days now will be a suffix if what? It was wine or chametz, and therefore you have to take all a suffix. Okay, and
regular case, if he separated it, and a week later he goes to give the truma to the kohen, and he opens it up and he makes claimants, it's okay, no problem, because and the kohen ends up with nothing.
But no, I'll suffix maybe again. You're misupik. This is the case over here. Why do you have to say your case a week later? This is the case of. This is exactly the case. And this is. But we don't. I guess we won't say right away it's going to turn. If you check out something within a week, in your case, it doesn't turn. It usually turns over a period of time. So therefore, it's giving 3 days. It's saying. No. If no.
That's what you're asking. If he was one, when he came to give it to the
No. What happened? What's he doing?
He separated it.
Right.
And now he has the truma, which he didn't give to the kohen yet.
Okay.
Now he wakes up 3 days later. Okay, I'm going to go to my friendly kohen. I'm going to hand it to him. He hands it to him. Kohen goes, "Thank you." Opens up a head. You give me vinegar.
Okay, so I guess
Since
it's
because usually was one. Right?
did it change again? You were.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Again, it's in that we'll say anything that we're talking about metukin. What he separated, he's giving that, he's saying what I'm using over here, we'll say vadai that we're going over here. I don't know about the coin is messed up. Again, you can't give to the coin 3 days. You don't know, because that's all vinegar now. All we want to know is the sufi separated, is that considered metukin or is it tevel? That's all we want to know. Right? The kohen, right? He can't give the kohen that. He'd have to give the kohen real yayin. He can't give him vinegar. The whole barrel's vinegar. We'll say the time he separated it was what? It was good. It was good, right?
Giving truma was at the time when it was wine. That's why
He was mafresh it on wine, wine on wine, right? Now you can't give him junk, but vis-a-vis the stuff that he took off. Does he have to retake? No. You're just looking at the kohen. I'm saying I don't think you give the kohen the claimants. You just want to know. Okay, so now, so we didn't get to the kasha yet. We're going to eventually get to the kasha. Now, my shna What's the difference for Aminon chavius on mikvah? Guys, by mikvah we said right away it wasn't good, correct? Over here we gave you 3 days, yeah. Okay, now, and we said, and after the 3 days, what did we say? Suffix. We didn't say vadai. We didn't say. We said it's a suffix whether returned. Now, maishna dahacha by mikvah chaser that vadai umaishna dahacha suffix. Guys, the case of mikvah. Guys. Eye contact. The case of mikvah. We said 30 days ago. As soon after he counted it, any tyrus, any kalim that he put in a tamek, vadai. We say right away that it's gone. Why did we say over here? 3 days for sure it was wine, and then I'm a supik. So anything I separated for the next 27 days, I have a doubt. What's the difference? Why are you saying vadai that it was chaser there? Why don't you say vadai? It's vinegar over here. Where do you make this distinction between the two? That's the Gemara's kashas. Maishne dahacha by mikvah we say vadai. U'maishne dahacha by kalim by truma we say suffix. V'amar Rav Chanina misura man tani chavius. Who's the Tana who learned chavius? Rav Shimon he. It's Rav Shimon. And by mikvah nami sveika mashvei. And by mikvah also he'll say it's a suffix. So just like you misupik after 3 days, whether it became vinegar or not, so too the mikvah will be misupik, at which point in time what? It became chaser. Memela suffik tuma b'shus harabim, sveikai tahar. Titanya kol tyrus shenasu al gabav, any tyrus that were done in this mikvah, limafreya, bein b'shus hayachid, bein b'shus harabim, temeyos. That's the Tanakama. Reb Shimon Aimer, no. B'shus harabim, tahayros. B'shus hayachid, Thailand will keep it in suspended animation. We're not sure. Aval Rabbanon, teva limafreya. But Rabbanon, it's teva limafreya. So what do you see? What does Shmuel say? Why don't we say that you go? We see that what you're going after midahashta. We're going after right now. It's chaser. Right now, excuse me. Right now, this crop, this wine is tevel. But according to Shmuel, why should it be tevel? Why don't we go take into account that maybe it's not? Look at Rashi, guys. It's the last Rashi on the page, 2 lines up. Tevel mafreya zeh shenitkan al yedei chaviyazu is tevel. Darmina midahash dehichmitz. We say that what from now. We say midahash mehichmitz when now it's chametz. Not chametz, chametz. May karanami chametz. V'hachanami nema midahashta by geres, b'tzafranami by geres. So what do you see? You see that what that now we say just like according to Shmuel that you metakin this chavius, right? We say when now that it's chametz, we say initially it also was chametz. V'hachanami say now that she was a begeres. Also earlier during the day, she was a Baigeres. Okay, one more time. Because we did 2 things. We brought in mikvah, we brought in truma. We then asked the kasha on truma, and we said it's different. Why is truma different over here? Okay. Now, what's the kasha on Shmuel? Says Shmuel the following: you take into account, right? We take into maybe. In the morning, right? We say that you have to take that into account, right? What does Rav say? Rav says, whatever it is now, it was before. So now, by Chavius, we're saying that according to the Tanakama, not Rav Shimon, according to the Tanakama, since now it's vinegar, we're going to say it was vinegar before. What did Rav say? Since now she's a Baigeres, she'll say she's a Baigeres before. Kasha and Shmuel. Says the Gemara, the same teretz. Says the Gemara, okay. Shiny Hasam, the Ikalameima Hemet Tevel Cheskasai. Right? He's going to give the same teretz he gave by mikvah. The Kalim Matame, the Tevel was not upgeshaped. It wasn't tithed. The Ema, let's say, Loin Nitkin, I'll say it wasn't Mitakin. Adrabba, Hemed Yain al Cheskasai, Ema Loichmitz. The last time you checked Guys, the last time you checked the mikvah, it was good. The last time you checked the wine, it was good, right? So why don't we mind me the wine? What's the answer to that? Just like you have the mikvah missing in front of you, you have the vinegar in front of you. Says the Mahachanami Hari Hiboy Geris the Fanenu. Says no, Hashtahu de Bagra. I'll say only in the afternoon she became a Begeris. Says the Mahachanami Hashtahu de Echmitz. Why don't we say right? Why not 30 days ago? Says Hasan Parti L'Reisa. You got two reises there. One, it's Chaimitz, and two, it was Tevel Meikara. Hachachad L'Reisa. You have Begeris the Fanenu. So now it's the exact same teretz that you had by mikvah, you have by Wapai Chavis. The Gemara just throws you off a little bit by throwing the stira into by mikvah to and coming out of Shimon. Okay, but again, you have the same teretz, the difference Shmuel has between mikvah and chavius. By mikvah and chavius, I have two reasons that it should be no good. One, I have it in front of me, and two, I have its original chazaka of tuma or tevel. Mashen came by the isha. All you have is what? One. She's a one in front of you, and therefore says Shmuel, you believe. Okay. Now, name a kitanoi. Let's say the Amid Beis. Let's say the machloikis between Rabbi and Shmuel is in fact the machloikis tanoim. Okay. Here's the background. We know that a person he was on his deathbed. What we call what a shchiv meirah. A shchiv meirah. If he gives away all of his property, and he gets better, he gets it back. Because we have an umdana that the only reason he gave it away is thought he's dying. He doesn't want to leave himself penniless. And the Rishonim say Meiri is speaking about karka, guys. It's the sugis karka. So he gives away his house, his real estate, all his holdings. He gives it all away. Why? Because he thinks he's dying. Showing all of a sudden he has a tremendous ness happens, he gets better, we say he gets it back. If, however, he's a healthy person and gives it all away, then what? Then he doesn't get it back. So here's the need in front of us. You have a case where a guy gave away his stuff, and now the question is, at the time he gave it away, was he healthy and it's a good gift, or was it shchiv mirah and he can get it back? Obviously, now he's healthy. I was a shchiv mirah and I get it back. They you were healthy, and now the shayla is, well, if I'm healthy now, it must be I was healthy before. I was a Begeris now, I was a Begeris before. That's going to be the tzushtel between this matana and asugya by Begeris. And we're going to want to suggest that the machloikis between Rav and Shmuel is machloikis tanoim generations before. Mi matzi, says the Gemara, mi maitzi miyad mi. Who takes the miyad who? Who takes the gift? Says the Gemara, who maitzi miyadam? That he, the shchiv meirah, or who says he was a shchiv meirah, if they took the karka, he could take it back from them. Beloy raya, without any proof. He doesn't have to prove that he was a shchiv meirah. Vehein ein maitzi miyado, and they can't take it back from him. Beloy raya, without a raya, div Rabbi Yaakov. These are the words of Rabbi Yaakov. So Rabbi Yaakov clearly he goes like Shmuel, that you don't go after the chazaka of now, guys. If he's taking it without a raya, now he's healthy, right? He's taking it back without a raya. What do you mean? You don't look and say, just like he was healthy now, he was healthy then. We'll say he must have been a shchiv meirah. So this mashma like Shmuel. Continues the Gemara, Reb Nassan Amano, in Bari who, if now he's a Bari, Allah lehevi raya, he's got to bring a raya. Shahaya shchiv meirah. V'im shchiv meirah who, and if it's shchiv meirah now, aleim lehevi raya, shebari haya. Why? Because he holds you go after hashta. So we'd say Shmuel holds like Reb Yaakov, and Rav holds like Reb Nassan. Says the Gemara, very geschmack. So name a Rav Damak Reb Nassan that you go after with the hashta. If he's healthy now, then he has to bring a raya, the other guy. And if he's shchiv meirah now, they have to bring a raya. Ushmuel Damak Reb Yaakov. That no, we'll say that you don't have to bring a raya. We'll give it back to the nice matana, saying that he must have been a shchiv meirah, because we'll take into account not just what he is now. Rav, I know that I feel like Reb Yaakov. I can hold even like Reb Yaakov. I'd kind of like Reb Yaakov Hasan by shchiv meirah. Oh, my man, guess what? That it belonged to him. It's karka, guys. It's karka again. The talmud you'd have to go to Mitzvah Mechaver Olav Lehever. Right, he was holding on to it. That's why karka that you don't have the chazaka. Right. But since it's speaking, guys, that there's no chazaka of a woman. Why? Because it's speaking the day she turned 12 in a day. No, 6 months. Since it's speaking 12 and 6 months, there is no chazaka. Says Rav, I'm not locked into saying every scenario you go after the chazaka, the status of right this moment, and say, if it's this moment this way, it was always this way. By money, you do say it. Why? Because we have a rule. When you have a piece of karka that's fighting, unless a person is going to bring a chazaka shalashanim, we're going to see in Baba Basra, right? We're going to say that in the chazaka of the Marikama. So therefore, Rav would admit over there, like Rabbi Yaakov. So don't make me, again, an Amari never wants to come out according to another Tana. He doesn't want to get involved. He wants to come out according to everybody. So don't say I'm locked into going to Rabbi Nosson and I can't call the Rabbi Yaakov. I can hold like Rabbi Yaakov also, because since we're speaking about monetary matters, I can hold you go after the chazaka, the previous chazaka. But by the woman, why are you going to go after the previous chazaka? There is no previous chazaka, because the day, as soon as you hit 12 years and 6 days, that whole day is you don't have a chazaka anymore of being a naira. Shmuel Omar, Anida Ami Afilu Reb Nassin, and Shmuel says that you do take into account what it was. Says I can go like Reb Nassin that you go after now. I'd kind of like Reb Nassin Hasam the Kuli Alam Becheskas Briim Kaimi. Man de Kamafki Nafshe Mechazaka Havilel say right now, guys. Most people sick, most people healthy. This guy's healthy now, right? What are we going to say? I'm going to take into account he's healthy now and say maybe must have been sick then. What am I going to say? If you're healthy now, you must have been healthy then, because most people aren't healthy. And therefore you have to bring a raya that you're the Yitzim min HaKlal. So says Shmuel, I can even go ahead and agree with Reb Nassan in that case. Since most people on Cheskes Briim, I would go ahead and say that you're the Yitzim min HaKlal to go ahead and bring a raya. But over here by Isha, Mikom Afgan Afshe Mechazaka de Kanei. All right, there's no chazaka from before. It's speaking again what that most girl are iris, guys. Most girl are iris, correct? So okay. Anyway,
the chazaka is based on the road.
Yeah, it's interesting. No, I can.
Because road people, just road people.
I don't think you have to go rove. I think you have to go to normal. Normal. It's not majority. It's normal. Like normal. It's normal. What's normal? It's what's normal. You're going after the norm. Now, if you look at Rashi says, "Mi nafke nafshi mechazaka kloimar ki misafkina lo ben naira mi mafkina lo micheskas har ben nairos biyoim mashim sheish." It's not har ben nairos on that day. In other words, not roiv nairos of the world. If you go, most people in the world are not 12 in a day. By the amount of time people live, Avi, most girls in the world are not 12 in a day. It means that on that day that it comes, you go Rova still Nairis, guys. If a bar mitzvah boy to being Shtei Cyrus, I'll give you you'll understand this. When we say a boy is bar mitzvah, the sign of bar mitzvah is 2 cyrus, 2 pubic hairs. When we say today is your bar mitzvah day, if most guys are bar mitzvah, I mean, if you look at majority, again, it's an arbitrary number. But if you didn't do it that day, if you didn't come into the rule that day, chances are that day you're not going to go ahead and say, "Oh, punkt on day 13 in a day, I'm a man." If you are before, it's looking at the whole. But if you look at the amount of boys who, when they hit the day of their bar mitzvah, did not bring shtei sarais, roiv, much more than roiv, are not going to bring. So it's the chazaka of that day. You're not mitzi. No, but whichever day it is, it's not that same day, uncle. Most bar mitzvah kids on that day, if they haven't bought shtei sarais, are not bringing shtei sarais that day. Whatever that day is, it's not all the same day. Whatever that day is for them, right? So in other words, that's this girl is going to be in. Obviously, she was in Naira before that day, or else there's nothing to discussion, right? There's no Kiddush over here. So, and says Shmuel, that day, we're not going to say that she left. In the evening she left, we'll say it happened in the evening. We're not going to say it happened in the morning. Masha'en came by land. Again, since most people are healthy, they're well, we'll say that there's no difference between now and before. They were healthy, therefore it's upon them to bring a raya. The bottom line is, you're not locked into saying that Rav and Shmuel, that Rav holds like Reb Nosson and Shmuel holds like Reb Yaakov. Both Rav can hold like Reb Yaakov because Cheskes Mammon, and Shmuel can hold like Reb Nosson because of the norm of Briam. Guys, I feel good? We're good. Okay, now, so we still have this machloikis. Now, how does this creep into our sugya, correct? So now here's how it creeps into our sugya. Says the Gemara following. Name a kahani tanoi. Kitsha avia b'derech, the kitsha atzma be'ir. So the father came first and she came second. Barihi boigeres, and now she's a boigeres. Tani chada, harihi boigeres lefanenu. Who's that like? That's like Rav. One brisa says, what's the what? So she was then. That's Rav. The Tanya idach chashina on the kedusha shneim. We're chayish for Kidushin, both of them. That's Shmuel. We take into account what she was. So let's say Rav and Shmuel machlokas tanoim. My lav chad kerav. The first brisa is like Rav. The chad kishmuel. The second brisa is like Shmuel. Loi idi v'idi kishmuel. They're both like Shmuel. Kan b'machashtoi. Kan b'she'ei machashtoi. Okay. If you're, let's see Rashi. We have machlokas Rashi and Tosfos. Let's see Rashi. B'machashtoi. It's speaking b'machashtoi lavia. She's b'machash her father. She's denying leimar kivar b'garti me etmol. She says, I was a beigeris from yesterday. The father says you weren't. She says that Shmuel b'maida. If she says she was a beigeris from yesterday, that she's believed. So in other words, so each one can go according to Shmuel. The first one that says Hari beigeris lefanenu is where she was machash the father and said I was a beigeris yesterday. The one that says that she's not, that yichayish to shneihem, is where she's not makish the father, and therefore would be chayish that she wasn't. V'neima midamaslisin le pligi amaroi nami le pligi. Okay, guys. So now maybe we could say Rav and Shmuel, they're not arguing at all. Maybe Rav said it's did by a chasha, right? And Shmuel said it's did by not. So let's say they don't argue. V'tizbra harav Yosef breder of Menashe midavil. Aviduv the Kavase the Rav, he paskin like Rav, the Ikbit Shmuel. He paskin like Rav that we're going to say that we're chayish for the Kidushin, that she's an Eishes Ish, and we're not going to be chayish for the previous Kidushin. She's going to say she's Vade and Eishes Ish. Again, if you paskin like Rav, she's married to the second guy. According to Shmuel, it's a suffix, right? So the Gemara says that obviously we're going to have a Uvda, and Shmuel's going to get a little upset. So obviously, Rav and Shmuel argue when, even with Hakchasha. Right? Where do you see that? Rav Yosef Drei Menashe midivil Aviduv the Kavase the Ikbit Shmuel v'Omar Kuli Alma Koili Lei B'Kabad Zuta. All Chachamim, they put their Chachma in a small kli and they're machmir because of the Chashash of an Eishes Ish. V'Haim Rabbanan Kaili Lei B'Kabad Rabba. They put all their Chachma into a big kav and they're really able to go ahead and go ahead and be matter a suffix ish. So what? Visal gedaitach like pligi amai kamakbid dilma ki ovid uvda b'machashtoi. Guys, Bishlemi tell me they argue. Of course, they by when it's not machish, they argue. Then we can understand why Rav got upset. Shmuel got upset. But if you're going to tell me that they agree, just say it's speaking where there was hakasha and therefore there was no shaila. Says the Gemara, Amar le mazutru lavashi hachi amamema. Says in Meme Hilchasa Kavase the Shmuel. The halacha is like Shmuel. The halacha is like Shmuel. That speaking about Ein Macheshes, the halacha is like Shmuel. Ravashi Yama Hilchasa Kavase the Rav. Again, but if you're not, they argue. Achosha they don't argue, but Ein Achosha they do argue. In other words, Ein Achosha even Rav still argues. And so we have the Pesach of what of Shmuel and Pesach of Rav. Now we have a rule of thumb, guys, in Shas. We spoke out yesterday two of the rules. Hilchas Rav Yossi Shenimukoy Imoy. Hilchas Rav Loza Mishnayis Rav Loza ben Yaakov Kavenoki. Machlekes Rav and Shmuel. Halacha Karav beIser. Halacha Shmuel b'Mammon. So what are we passing over here? Passing like Shmuel, right? Why? How can you pass in? This is Iser, Eishes Ish. So look at Tosfos. Hilchsa Kavasi de Rav. The Afagav de Bekuli Gemara Kaimelon the Hilchsa Kavasi de Rav beIsura. So how can you pass him out? Why do you have to pass in this way like Rav over here? Hutzich Lichsei Kan Halacha Kamaisei. In other words, the kasher is why was it necessary to halachas like Rav over here if that's the rule? Mishum Dika Amaroi the Pasuk Shmuel. Since the Amaroi and we went like Shmuel, like the flow of the Gemara, so we had to go back in the opposite direction. Nimsum Yotzim Dravenu. You have this huge machlokes Rav and Shmuel. when you have chazakis, you go after kidahashta, or you take account of meikara. According to Rav, you take account just hashta, whatever you are now, you were. According to Shmuel, whatever you are, does not now, you have to take into account previously. Again, there are other factors also. Cheskas marikama, difference in imominus versus issa. There are different things to take into account. I'll stop over here.